And I think we just might be live. So, hey, hi, Reena.
Hi,
And thank you
Reena.
so much for being here.
Thank you
I'm
so
so
much for
excited
having
about
me.
this conversation about saying yes to the unfamiliar.
Yes, uncharted territory, as we call it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And even just, warming up, talking just these few minutes, you mentioned about a million things that are new to me in this world of podcasting and things. So, at first I actually felt that, "Oh, yikes, there's so much more and I don't know and where to start and all that." So if anyone else is feeling like me, what would you tell them?
Oh my gosh. Well, like we were talking about before we hopped on here, I am so proud of you for exploring. And the technology is there. You shouldn't get held up by the technology. You and I are doing this via Zoom. You figured out Zoom, you figured out a microphone, you figured out how to live stream through Zoom, you figured out how to create a website. There are tools to make it easier today. And I would just say practice. One thing I also
Absolutely.
really recommend is like people who have never been on a podcast before, practice with people who love you, practice with people
Yeah.
who are your cheerleaders, with people that you feel comfortable talking with people that you feel comfortable messing up with, people that you can do the intro one or two, three times and they're not going to get annoyed with you.
Yeah.
In the beginning, there's a lot of fumbles, even with people who I've worked as a field interviewer, just there's different formats. There's Instagram Live, there's Facebook Live, there's
Mm.
Clubhouse, there's Twitter Spaces. There's so many different tools for you to tell your story these days. And just
Yeah.
getting familiar with the format, even live streaming is different than pre-recorded. So during a live stream, if there's people commenting, you have to acknowledge them, ask them where they're signing in from. Are they live? Is it a replay? Do they have any questions? You have to engage them. So that's a different balance versus just having a conversation like we are having.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And all those things you mentioned that, oh, it's easier, we figure it out. I'm like, yes, a lot of it took a couple of tries.
Oh God, me too. When I
Yeah.
first started my own podcast, I tried more than one platform. At first, I was like, "Oh, let me try Anchor. You can just record right into the app." And two, I interviewed some people, and then I wanted to go back and record some bits, some transitions, some places we talked over each other. So I tried like recording bits and inserting it, and then the audio sounded different and it didn't feel as natural. And I cut things too close together where it sounded choppy. Yeah, it takes a lot of practice, even if you know how to tell a story. And it takes getting comfortable having conversations where it doesn't feel like you're on camera.
Yes, that too.
The more you do it, the more natural it just becomes because you're able
Absolutely.
to
Yeah.
just pretend like it's not there.
Yes. And it's only the first few moments I find that, okay, you got to check that everything's working, everything's up and running. But then the conversation kind of takes over and it has a life of its own, I find. And
100%. It's funny too, because when I worked in reality TV back in the day, they used to overshoot like hours and hours of
oh,
footage. And
yeah,
then the people start to like forget that the cameras are around because when the cameras are on you from morning until night,
yeah.
inevitably you're just going to start acting yourself.
Yes, you
Much
can't
more
keep
so.
it up for forever. You can only do that for so long.
Right. So even though it was unscripted, like they're able to create story out of having that amount of footage.
Mm,
There's just unplanned amazingness that happens when you're being shot that much.
yeah, yeah. I like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and with podcasting too, like in the beginning, I might have recorded an hour and cut it down to 25 minutes. Like
Mm,
you will notice in some interviews that people are repetitive. They might say things again and again, and do you really want it said twice? So I feel like I've gotten to the point where I'm doing less editing now. You said that you don't really edit much at all
yeah.
because I like the natural pauses more now. I don't mind, if you're thinking about something and then you want to say it. I think it's more relatable when it's less edited. And I'm doing more lives now, which is uncharted territory. Yesterday I did 2 lives, and I'm pushing myself there to
Yeah.
be more comfortable doing that.
Mhm.
Before, I mean, all of my 200 episodes have been pre-recorded and edited. But
Yeah.
I do think that you allow people to get to know you more if you go live, and if you show them different platforms and different sides of yourself. And every single person that you collaborate with is going to ask you questions in a different way and help you tell your story differently. And that's why
Absolutely.
I love collaborating with people from all over and
Yeah.
at all different stages of the game, because somebody who's just starting out can be way more excited than somebody that's 500 episodes in.
Yes. Yes. I'm not just dialing it in here because I have to show up every time because and I love doing this. And I mean, thank God for the internet, because we would never have connected. I mean, we're
Exactly.
half a world away and different fields of work. And I mean, and just a post in a random group somewhere, and I was like, hey, that sounds nice. Ooh, I'd like to do that. Yay, let's set it up and let's go. So
I love that. I'm so
yeah,
glad that we connected. That's amazing. Yeah, where are you located exactly?
I'm in Denmark. So teeny tiny dot on top of Germany on the European map. So yeah, really good to have the bigger world right at my keyboard. I like that, especially as an introvert, because I feel at home. Yeah, yeah.
Are
Introvert
you
and
sure
tech.
about that? You might need another assessment there. I don't see that.
Well, that's because I'm at my camera and at my screen, because I'm at home. I'm actually in a corner of my kitchen, so I'm comfy here. I get to stay inside my comfort zone and meet the world. That's just, for me, that's the perfect combination. All that thing about, oh, you have to push yourself, get out of the comfort zone. I'm like, no, I like my comfort zone to get bigger, and I do expand it every day. But I mean, there's another expression, right? That when you're in the zone, so I'm in my zone when I'm at home connecting with people in this way. So
I think that's fantastic. And people ask me a lot, like, how should they operate on social media? And I don't really honestly think that you have to be everywhere. I think that you should do what makes you feel comfortable. And if you feel comfortable in your kitchen and you feel in the zone in the kitchen and you feel good right there, and that's your spot where you can deliver and be chipper and be cheery, do it from the kitchen, girlfriend, and do Facebook Live if that's what you feel comfortable
yeah.
with. I started on LinkedIn just because I had some corporate positions where it was my job literally all day to reach out to people on LinkedIn. So I started
Yeah.
developing a big following there, and I got really comfortable with messaging there and how people connect there. And I really understand that platform. And that's honestly where I have the most followers.
Yeah.
Then I worked for someone and her entire following is on Facebook. So I was like, oh man, Facebook's just been like my friends and family for years. But then I saw how she was
Pictures of
operating.
lunches and people's weekend
Yeah.
getaway. But all of a sudden there's challenges and lives and people advertising all kinds of things.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, wow, I can use Facebook just like I use LinkedIn. I mean, the messaging is different. People don't write as much on Facebook as they would on LinkedIn. And a lot of people share like pictures of their kids or more personal stories on
Yeah. Yeah.
Facebook. But I feel like a lot of these platforms, there's a lot of crossover. You just kind of have to see how to show up in each place. But my advice really is go where you're having fun, go where it's easy for you. Yes,
Yeah.
push yourself a little bit, but start on one channel and then branch out from there. I really honestly don't spend the same amount of time on each platform. There are platforms that I prefer to use, and there are platforms that I don't prefer to use or that I lost
Yeah.
interest in.
And there's only so many hours in a day. So you
Yeah,
kind of have to prioritize.
100%. Yeah, I would say try to be strategic. Like, where are the people that you want to connect with? And where best can you build those relationships?
Yeah. I'm curious because we were talking about getting our messages out there. Um, can you share a bit about what is it to you that makes it important to connect with people like this, networking and getting your message out there?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's like therapy. This podcast has been in some ways that, I went from before the pandemic, like working full time to
Mm,
working nights to working, when I could and flip-flopping schedules with my husband. And
yeah,
having a platform gives you the opportunity to connect with any interests that you have, really. I mean, yeah, you should have a theme to your show, and themes can change and you can continue to pivot, just like when you're an entrepreneur. You can think you want to do one thing and then you could get a couple customers that make you change your mind,
yeah,
so
absolutely. Yeah,
so yeah, the podcast for me is just a way to reach out to people that I think that I want to know, or that I'm interested in what they do, or they have a story that I've heard and I want to know more about it. I mean, oh my gosh, like over the summer, I listened to people on Clubhouse and found stories. I listened to people on Instagram Live and found stories. I'm a mom of 4, so I have interests around parenting. I have
yeah,
interest in other podcasters, other content creators, how they're doing it. And a lot of content creators love to collaborate. So if you have a show, they're willing to do swaps with you. They're willing to do collaborations with you. I'd have
yeah,
you on my show now, so
yeah,
for me, it's just about, learning about different areas of the world, learning about how other people have navigated situations, finding common interests, getting different perspectives.
absolutely. Were
It's the
you
best
all?
school, the best school in the world.
Yes, totally agree. And I mean, you sound like you're a natural at this. So were you always, or did you have some tricks and tools about how you got started you'd like to share?
You're so sweet. I will say that truthfully, this medium feels good for me. Like what we were talking about, how you feel comfortable from your kitchen.
Hmm.
I started in radio and I love that format. And to me, even though there could be a lot of people listening, like it just feels like we're having a conversation. So I feel
Yeah,
like I'm able to be myself.
mm,
I have
exactly.
always gotten nervous on stages. And just this past year, actually, I signed up for Toastmasters
Ooh,
to get better at speaking on the fly and talking about different subject matters that I wouldn't necessarily give a speech on, and
hmm,
learning from people that love public speaking or want to get better at public speaking.
yeah,
So, yeah, part of the reason I started a podcast too was that I wanted to get better at interviewing. I wanted to get better at marketing. I wanted to practice my writing chops, and I wanted to connect with people. And if it led to client work, amazing. And I have fulfilled all of those things. So I feel like I'm winning. Yeah.
absolutely. You had me at doing it because you enjoy it. I mean, that's a big win right there. And all the other stuff, that's sort of icing on the cake. And
It has helped with my public speaking though,
yeah.
tremendously. Like I've actually been invited to speak publicly a couple times and bowed out
Oh,
because yeah, I get nervous in front of big crowds, like
mm,
even emceeing. But what's amazing about having now interviewed 200 people is that last weekend I just got invited to do a live in-person interview
yeah.
with another podcast. Shout out to the Label Free podcast. She was local here in Chicago, and I got introduced to her by another podcaster on LinkedIn, Scott Ferguson. And now, from having done so many interviews, it feels like we're just doing it through a Zoom. Like I was really able to sit next to her and vibe off of her, and we had good timing with each other. And just the more you do it, the more comfortable you become. And I've now gotten even more comfortable doing it in person, which was definitely a goal. Now, could I
Yeah.
do that in front of hundreds of people? I think I would still get nervous, but I have actually done one live interview over the last year, interviewing a guy who stopped the shooting in Poway. There was a synagogue shooting in Poway, California at a
Oh,
Chabad.
okay.
And there was a nonprofit in town where he was speaking, and they asked me to do the live in person
Wow.
interview. And it was for a bunch of
Yeah.
like police officers and safety officers in the community. And I would say there was probably 25 to 30 people, but it was, some people I knew and people who believed in
Yeah.
me. And it was a very like
Yeah.
warm environment. And
Yeah.
again, I had already interviewed over 100 people. So I was able to do it with it. I was nervous. I brought my daughter, my little cheerleader. I was reading my
Oh,
notes beforehand. I pre-interviewed the guy first,
yeah,
but that was uncharted territory. That was pushing myself to grow. And I think baby steps, right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
I was just thinking that you found a way to make the unfamiliar and the uncharted territory. You found a way to make it less scary, I guess, by, preparing and having people there you knew you could rely on, who had your back. So
Yes, that makes a big difference. So even a couple of years ago, there was a girl in the community and she was like, I'm putting together an event and it's all about LinkedIn. And she's like, I know you love LinkedIn. And she's like, I'm inviting one other, LinkedIn influencer to speak. And I
yeah,
knew him and I loved her. And she gave me
yeah.
months to prepare. And the way that she warmed up the crowd
Ooh,
before I had to talk was a game changer.
all
Like if
right.
you know that somebody like you, we warmed up beforehand and we had a nice rapport, you just know
Yeah,
the
yeah.
conversation's going to be good.
Mm,
So I knew that she had improv training. I knew that the people that she invited would be like her. So
yeah,
also you can say yes to uncharted territory if it's like a calculated risk, right? It's like going to a
yeah,
startup that's
yeah, yeah,
funded versus
yeah.
going to a startup that's looking for funding, right? Like if you go to an opportunity that there's like enough pieces in place where you feel like you might be able to pull it off, I would start with those.
Yeah, yeah. If the setting or is in place, kind of, that helps a lot.
It
It sure
does.
does. Yeah.
It really does. But then, I've had other situations where like, I'm doing the whole behind the scenes of an event. I was booking the sponsors for the event, putting out the snacks and making sure the speakers were lined up and managing the green rooms. And then the head of the event's like, hey, can you go intro me to the crowd? And there's like 350 people out there. I was like, I kind of wish I would have known that beforehand. I'm going to do my best here, but I was nervous as heck. And I probably could have found you somebody to do a better job.
But how was it then, being put on the spot like that?
It was definitely out of my comfort zone, but I think since I was 7 months pregnant, I handled it well. And when you are pregnant, you get some grace. And, I knew her and we were friends and I knew a lot of the people in the audience. So again, like I had some cheerleaders there, which
Yeah.
helps, but I was definitely nervous and it was not my best intro. And again, like, I feel like now I could have probably done a better job, but it's trying it anyway.
Yeah. And I mean, life went on,
Yes,
and you could do a better job now, of course. But would you have been able to do that if you didn't start somewhere?
exactly.
So yeah, I like to look at it that way sometimes, when you survive something that was unpleasant, but okay, then next time's a little less scary, and next time's a little less scary. And
I've had other ones too. And here's something I learned as well. I am better unscripted versus scripted.
yeah.
So I was asked to MC another women's event and it was,
Mhm.
in the community here. And they wanted me to read about someone's mother who had passed away and it was in that person's honor,
Oh wow, yeah.
which is right, like a somber, introduction. And
Yeah.
having to read that word for word, and there were some hard pronunciations in there. I feel like I would have been better maybe telling a personal story
Mm.
and then bits and pieces of it. But I feel like I got a little bit choked up on the script. Look, people afterwards were like, that was a heartfelt introduction. And,
Yeah.
I'm probably beating myself up over it and it was fine. I just didn't feel 100% on my game. And I tell podcasters this as well. Like, if you're going to interview somebody who you're intimidated by and who's written books and who's been on hundreds of podcasts, right? Like you might
Yeah.
want to have 4 or 5 questions to the side. You might want to have a little bit of preparation going on, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But don't feel the need to read it word by word. Just like know the subjects you want to hit or the
Yeah.
directions that you might want to go, or, have something there if you run out of things to say. But I do think when people read, you can hear it and you can feel it.
Mm. Yes. Yeah, I think it creates a bit of distance as well.
Yeah.
So I would take real over perfect any day, I think. And then I'm also thinking that, as you said, people came up to you and said that was a heartfelt introduction. I mean, sometimes we're a little hard on ourselves, I
I
find.
definitely am.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So we're not always the best judges of how we actually did, because we have this idea sometimes that, and if we allow ourselves to take in what people say when they compliment us as well, that's not an easy one either, is it? That could feel kind of like uncharted territory, but I mean, if we could get better at it, I think we would be less hard on ourselves, and it would be
Yeah.
easier next time we had to put ourselves out there.
You know, compliments truly stay with people for a lifetime. That is something that I want to do more of.
Mm.
I've had people give me one-liners of confidence, or, you know, even just a little review of your podcast or something like
Yeah.
that. People remember that, and it can make a difference in people's lives. You know what? In honor of, I think today is actually like National
Yep.
Women's Day or
Day.
something.
Yes.
Like, go support another woman. If somebody is listening to this right now, tell us what you think of this. Like, tell us what this
Yeah.
brought up for you. You know, it's so easy to go just tell somebody, I see you, I like your content, I
Yeah.
resonated with that, keep going. Little messages like that really go far.
Absolutely. I don't think there's a bigger gift we can give anybody than making them feel seen and heard for who they are.
Yeah, it's so validating. It's so necessary. And I feel like, especially with this pandemic, like people are just hungering for that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Do it for a loved one too. I mean, really,
Yeah,
those
the people
relationships
we
are
are most,
so important.
absolutely, not take people for granted, which is easy to do in a busy day. But
Yeah, so I mean, there was even this teacher who made a huge impact on my life, and I feel like everybody's had teachers like that. And he passed away during the pandemic, and I was just like, man, I wish that I could have let him know that, like,
mm,
I would not have gotten to this point in my career and my life had it not been for, you know, his
yeah,
hard work and for
yeah,
him taking a chance on me. And honestly, he was a tough teacher. um it took me a long time to feel like he accepted me, or
yeah.
that he was rooting for me. He is stone cold face, you know, and he was he had very high expectations and standards, and it took me a long time to feel like I had made it with him.
Yeah.
And yeah, I would have loved to reconnect with him years later. Just, you know, I never got to. And that was part of why I really pushed so hard to interview Jerry Springer, because that guy was the first show that I worked on. And it was one of, you know, the hardest shows that I've ever worked on. I learned so much from it. He calls it like a boot camp. Like, if you can work there, you can work
I
anywhere. And it's
I
really
bet.
true.
Yep. Yep. I can imagine. And you got to interview him.
It was so surreal. And what's really, I mean, there was a couple things like after that interview. One, I was just like, wow, would I even really want to be famous? That was one question that really,
Wow.
yeah, came up for me during the interview. I was like, is that
Oh,
really like all it's cracked up to be? Is that really what people think? You
yeah.
know, and I feel like he gave me a different perspective on that. And then, you know, I always wanted to know like what it was like being the host. Like, did he really understand all of what the production team was doing? And he
Oh,
did. And that was really cool to hear.
yeah. That he's not
And
just the big guy on his throne and then all the little people doing the work.
yeah, yeah. I always wanted to know like how much he got, because he showed up, you know, just on show day, you know,
Yeah,
and I was
yeah.
like, how much did he really understand like what we had to do on the phone, or how much babysitting of those guests? And he really did get it. I mean, I guess if you do something for 27 years, you know, you pick up on things.
Yeah, yeah. I guess.
But it was so interesting to hear his perspective about what
Yeah.
it's like to become famous and reach that level of success, and his calming effect too was crazy. Like I was up the whole night before the interview. I was totally a nervous wreck beforehand, like not my best self, let's just say. And he called me beforehand and he was like, hey, I'm going to be on in 5 minutes. And I was like, okay, I'll be there. You know, and I'm just like trying to play it cool. And I'm like, oh my God, I've got Jerry Springer's phone number now. Like, this is totally crazy. And then I get on and he was just so warm, so down to earth, so personable, zero ego detected. And I was just like, this is a dream conversation.
Yeah.
Like, it felt like such a blessing and so much closure, and just one of those once in a lifetime things.
Yeah. Yeah, I can only imagine. And what I'm thinking is, I like the way you talk about him and his effect, because I like to think that those are necessary qualities to get to where he is. I mean, how disappointing would it be if he turned out to be a cold jerk who was just in it for the views or whatever? I mean, I like to think that good people get to reach those places, that it's people who have the qualities it takes and actually have a passion for what they do.
Yes. Yeah. It was really reaffirming to hear. Yeah. And after the call too, I was like, oh my God, he's a normal guy. Like, how many people are we putting up on pedestals?
That's a good point. Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
It made me like want to spend more time with my beautiful family that I have, and just really be appreciative that I don't have like the paparazzi around all the time. Like, I today even my babies too, and yeah, I'm paying for a play group from 8:45 to 12:40. Oh, I'm gonna have to go soon to pick him up. But, and he was tired this morning, and I was like, I love staring at his face and laying in this bed, and I don't have a call until 12, and I'm going to do that. And this is special, and he's going to grow up so fast. He's almost 3, and what a beautiful little boy I have next to me.
Yeah. And thank you so much for giving your time. And I know you have places to be. Those little ones, they take priority. That's just the way it is. But I super appreciate you for being here and sharing a little bit of your world with me here at home in my kitchen. Isn't it amazing?
It is. I am so glad that we got to connect in your comfy kitchen, because you are just shining from it. And this was a special conversation. I can't wait to follow your journey. Please do not be a stranger. Let's do this again. And yeah, you're
absolutely
fantastic.
Absolutely. You know where to find me. I'm just a message away. I might even get on LinkedIn someday.
Do it and hit me up.
Yeah, will do. Thank you. Have a really beautiful day.
You too. Thank you for making mine.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.